Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Captain Marshall Richardson, and this is my personality profile and leadership style assessment video. So I did take the 4 tests that we had in the assignment, the Jung typology, emotional intelligence, hemisphere, and VARC score tests. The results were all interesting for me. I do agree with some and I disagree with others. In terms of my Jung typology score, it said I was 19% introvert, 6% intuitive, 9% feeling, and 31% judging. I do agree with that. I do tend to be more introvert and intuitive. I do have an extroverted side that I can mimic and tap on when the situation calls for it, but I'm not naturally that way. In terms of the emotional intelligence test, I disagree with some of the scores. It said I had a self-awareness score of 5, self-management of 10, social awareness of 9, and relationship management of 8. I disagree with the self-awareness score. That actually suggests that I'm not able to recognize my own emotions and the impact that they have on my and others' work performance. And I would argue that I do have a strong sense of self-worth, so I somewhat disagree with that, but I do agree with the self-management and social awareness scores. In terms of my hemisphere dominance test, it said I was 55% right brain and 45% left. I do agree with that. I do tend to be a little bit more artistic than organized, and I do attribute that to enjoying music and dance a little bit more. In terms of my VARC scores, I do agree with how I learn. I got a visual score of 7, an oral of 13, read and write of 13, and kinesthetic of 14. I do tend to learn a lot better with hands-on reading and repeating the instructions versus just reading them. And that's actually something that I do need to work on myself. In terms of the readings and what I need to do to be an effective healthcare leader, I do think that I need to work on my ability to be more critical when I self-reflect. I do need to try and gain a little bit more understanding of those visual learning tools. Just because I'm not a visual learner, that doesn't mean that others are not. So I need to make sure that I have effective ways of teaching visually that make sense for others and not just my own learning style. I also need to make sure that I'm more open to the idea of having a skeptic in the organization, which is actually a really healthy thing. You don't always want to have an organization that is status quo and everybody's happy. I think a skeptic can be really good because they're going to not only challenge the way things are, but they're going to want to push people to new ideas and bring better things to the organization. In terms of some of my strengths and weaknesses, I would say I have strength in terms of integrity and self-control. My resilience is rather strong in terms of when I face adversity. I'm very motivating and motivated. Usually, even if it's fake or if I'm in the hurt locker, you'll always see me with a smile on my face. And I do tend to be rather empathetic, and I have a strong desire to grow others. In terms of my weaknesses, I'm not very innovative, I'll admit. I'm not always creative. When I try to think of new ways to bring the organization, I'd rather focus on learning things how they are, so I'm a little bit better. I do tend to have organized chaos. When I sort things out, they may not make sense to others. In my head, they always make sense, but in the end, they always fall together. So everything happens for a reason, at least for me. My self-confidence is another weakness. I am not always a leader that says, hey, everybody, don't worry, we got this. I personally think that can be a little misleading and blind. I'd rather be the leader that says, we may not be entirely prepared for this, but it may go in our favor. Let's see what happens. Let's see how it goes, because we're not quitting. I'd rather be a lot more realistic with expectations, but also give confidence. Then in terms of my leadership style, I'd say I'm more of a people's leader. I tend to value people over the system, but I do tend to push people to make decisions that are for the greater good of the system. I'm not a micromanager, so when it's time to put someone in a position that they're not comfortable with, I'm going to give them the tools they need to get better, and I'm going to let them run and give them guidance, but I'm not going to hold their hand along the way. I want them to feel that they can make mistakes. And I also want to try and make sure that I push the why in terms of priorities. I want to align my boss's priorities with my own and then give my subordinates the why of why we're doing things, so that they have buy-in and that there is bottom-up feedback. That way we know how I can get better and we as an organization can get better. So that is my leadership style and personality profile assessment. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks.